Okay, thank you. Dear guests and valued PMI Bulgaria chapter members, we greatly appreciate your valuable time and kind interest in the event today with the title Project Management versus Change Management. Thanks to people like Leeman, our valued speaker today, we become aware of how many other skills and talents we have as project managers and what we could pay more attention to in our work with people, technology, processes, and organizations. You will hear about new tools and help you increase the success of your projects. As Ron writes, every project is about a change. Ron has been in the business of change and transformation in more than 20 industry sectors and has change managed over 25 different technology solutions. He is consultant, trainer, blogger, author, coach, mentor, and trusted advisor on all matters related to change and transformation. In 2012, he was presented also with the Change Leader of Tomorrow Award by the World Human Resource Development Congress. Some housekeeping rules. We'll have about 50 minutes presentation followed by 30 minutes quantum question and answer sessions. You can put your questions in the chat for Ron to answer them. By the end of the event today, I will put a link to our survey and to the PDU claim form. We greatly value your feedback and would love to hear what you think about the event today. Last but not least, all our monthly events are kindly supported by SoftServe, our exclusive monthly sponsor. The work of PMI Bulgaria chapter and its members are generously supported by our sponsors, Atos, Kanbanize, ScaleFocus, and Telelink. Without further ado, I give the word to Ron. Ron, welcome to Sofia, Bulgaria. We are honored to have you.
Thank you, Sylvia, and hello, PMI Bulgaria. That you are my third European PMI chapter. I've already done Hungary, Budapest, and I did Norway last week. So you are my third one, but you're not the last one. There's a few more on the cards, I can assure you. So I know Sylvia has just introduced me, but what I'll do is I'll go very quickly through that introduction again, just to remind you, if you like. So I am the owner-founder of what's called the Highway of Change, which is a small boutique style company which I set up when I moved to Thailand in 2011. And yes, I am presenting from Thailand, and it's gone 11:30 at night here. So if I fall asleep, if it goes quiet, I've fallen asleep. Anyway, again, I've been in the business of change and transformation for 4 decades. Getting on a bit now, so I do everything online, so I don't have to travel anymore. I've worked across the length and breadth of the UK, across many European countries, and internationally in excess of probably now around 20 industry sectors, and change managed over 25 different technology solutions, ranging from things like ERP, Microsoft Dynamics, SAP, to other types of solutions, core banking solutions, and so forth. As Sylvia said, I'm a consultant, trainer, blogger, speaker, author, coach and mentor, and a trusted advisor, but I tend to focus now more on the training and trusted advice side of the work, because that's the easiest to actually do online, to be honest. Yes, I was in June 2012, I was presented with the Change Leader of Tomorrow Award by the World HRD Congress, which was a complete surprise to me. No idea. I didn't believe them when they first sent me an email, but I checked it up and it was genuine. And it was because of what they say was my remarkable progress in initiating changes enough for others in the same industry sector to follow my example. And for my sins, I'm also the founder of the Institute of Change and Transformation Professionals Asia. I could go on for about an hour about that, but I'm not going to. But basically, we're trying to set up a professional body for change and transformation practitioners here in Asia. Okay, what I'd like to do now is just briefly go through what the workshop content is going to go through. So first of all, I'm going to give you some context about what I'm going to, where I'm coming from. Secondly, I'm going to be talking about what is actually the difference between project management and change management. And I hope you will be pleasantly surprised that there is quite a difference. I'm going to then talk very briefly about the roles and responsibilities of project managers and change managers and how they differ. I give you, just to emphasize that point, I'm going to give you 3 personal examples of roles and responsibilities of what my roles and responsibilities were, and the roles and responsibilities of the project manager were when I worked together in collaboration on 3 different projects. Then there's a lot of talk about integrating the 2 disciplines. In other words, project managers should take on more change management, or change managers should become more involved with project management and so forth. But there are some pitfalls and some issues around that, but I'll go through that anyway. I'm then going to talk about how long the Project Managing Institute has been talking about change management. And I'm also going to go through a few slides about the latest PM Box 7 and how they have related to change management. And finally, I'm just going to go through a few slides to just try and emphasize what project success and failure look like. So that's the main core of what I'm going to be talking about. And hopefully it's going to take 60 minutes, but we'll see. Again, as Sylvia said, if you have any questions, please record them in the chat function and I'll go through them at the end of the session. In the Norway session, it went on for a long time. There was lots of questions, but I like lots of questions. And I'll tell you if I can't answer them, but if I can answer them, I obviously will do. Okay, are you ready? I hope you are, because I'm now going to begin. Right, I said I'm going to give you some context, and that's basically to try and give you an idea of where I'm coming from. So from which perspective am I talking? Well, I'm talking, obviously, because I'm a change manager, from a change management perspective. However, many years ago, I was a project manager, and I am still a fellow of the Association of Project Management in the UK. So I still retain some project management roots, although I've changed sides. It's been an ongoing debate, the PM and CM side. When I go into the project management stuff, they've been talking about change management since 2005. I actually wrote an article in 2014, which I published on LinkedIn on the subject of project management and change management. And that had 17,000 views, 200 reactions. Sorry? And 63 comments anyway, so I'll carry on.
I knew them.
Okay. There's also an issue around what type of change management I'm going to be speaking about, because there's a bit of confusion when people ask me what I do and I say I'm a change manager. There is the change management, the project type, which is managing change requests, ITIL, ITSM, and that's a process obviously where project changes are identified, documented, analyzed and decided, either approved or rejected. Then there's the change management of the organizational type, so managing the people side of change, which is a structured approach to transitioning individuals, teams and organizations from a current state to a desired future state. I'm going to be talking about the second one, just to make sure. I did one PMI chapter here in Asia, and they got confused about which one I was speaking about, which was interesting during the question and answer session afterwards. I think Sylvia mentioned this. Regardless of type, all projects are change projects. And there's currently a debate on LinkedIn about whether project management should report into a change management office rather than a project management office, which is an interesting concept. I've joined that debate, by the way, and there's a lot of differences of opinion. Right. Okay. What is the difference? What is the actual difference between these two disciplines? I'm going to try and tell you. So traditionally, I think as project managers, you should all know projects are run by project managers like yourself using a structured project management approach. But there is a fundamental difference between PM and CM, or project management and change management. Project management is all about installation. It focuses on a plan. It's built around events, and it has timelines and deliverables. And the whole aim of project management is to get from a current state, no installation, to a future state, installation achieved. Whereas change management is all about adoption. So the business adopting whatever solution has been delivered. And it focuses on the people aspects of change with the aim of getting that critical mass of stakeholders, to be committed to the change involved, to learn new behaviors and to sustain them into the future. There's no going back once the solution has been delivered. ProSci, who are a big change management training company, I don't know whether you've heard of them, they actually define project management as focusing on tasks and activities required to create and implement the technical solution, and that it is designed, developed, and delivered effectively. They also go on to define change management as focusing on employees, the people side of change, impacted by the project or initiative, to ensure that the people who are being delivered to embrace, adopt, and use the solution associated with the change. Unfortunately, PM and CM are often misaligned. They're not aligned. They don't go for the same outcomes. Let me explain that in a little bit more detail. Let me give you an example of a go-live scenario where you have a work that goes on pre-go-live and work that goes on post-go-live. The project manager will deliver to time, cost, and quality. That is a project manager's outcome. And come go live, they will say, thank you very much. I've delivered what I'm supposed to deliver. Where's my next project? Okay. If a change manager is involved in that project, they will also have work to do in collaboration with that project manager. Things like communications, training delivery, business readiness measurement. However, the difference is post go live, where the change manager has a responsibility for people adopting what's been delivered and using what's been delivered and making sure that the benefits from the business case are realized. All of that happens after go live. So the project manager is kind of out of it by then, but the change manager still has a lot of work to do. That's what I mean by the two disciplines are not necessarily aligned. Okay. I'm going to quote you from a blog way back in 2019 by a lady called Suzanne Madston, and she's a project leadership coach, and she wrote a blog called What are the 3 biggest mistakes that project managers make? She says, mistake number 1, managing tasks and events at the expense of leading and managing the people side of change. The most common mistake project managers make is that they are more concerned with tasks and events, okay, rather than the human impact of the change. Sometimes unknowingly, so they don't realize it because they're too focused on their project management activities. Many project managers have a rational, logical, and analytical way of thinking. That's why you become a project manager. I used to have, and have now completely changed. I don't think logically anymore. She goes on to say, they are good at analysing facts, calculating duration, coordinating activities, and making rational decisions. Then she says they're task focused and see their primary role, as delivering what the customer has asked for within, remember I said, agreed parameters of time, cost, and quality. And I'll be using those three words quite regularly during this presentation. And finally, she says their strength is in executing and following somebody else's vision and specification rather than helping to define it. So she's a project leadership coach, and those words are quite damning, to be honest, but I thought I'd mention them anyway. I'm probably being a bit contentious, but hopefully it'll give rise to some interesting questions at the end. Okay, I'm going to go now with a very simple view of the difference. Although I've already quoted a few people who, I've tried to describe the difference, I'm going to go now, start from a simple view. So project management prepares the solution for the organization. Change management prepares the organization for the solution. Nice and simple. That's your elevator pitch. If you're a project manager or change, if someone says, what do you do? Oh, I'm a project manager and I prepare the solution for the, what do you do? I'm a change manager. I prepare the organization for the solution. They're nice and quick, nice and simple, very understandable. Right, a little bit more detail now. You have a PM and a CM. They have certain priorities. PM prioritizes the solution, whilst the CM prioritizes people. The PM manages time, cost, and quality. I told you I'd use that phrase again a bit more. And CM prioritizes things like adoption, resistance, and engagement, amongst many other things. The outcomes for a PM will be the solution delivery, as I showed on that sort of pre-go live and post-go live, whereas the CM outcome is all about making sure that as many people use and adopt the solution as possible. All right, a bit more detail now. Number one, thinking about it, change management is only an idea, which is not like project management, which is actually the development of the idea. Oh, here's the vision, here's the idea. Now you go ahead, build a plan to deliver that, Mr. Project Manager, or Miss or Mrs. Project Manager, or Ms. Project Manager. Project management has a timeline. Yes, of course it has Gantt chart, nice, deliverables and quality gates, etc. Well, change management can sometimes go on for however long is necessary. It does have a timeline, but sometimes change managers get landed with lots of additional work and it can go on forever. Number three, change management needs many ideas to make one vision, while project management just needs the one vision. Go live, deliverable, that's what we're aiming for. Change management is actually looking to structure the vision. Where are we going? Where do we want to be at the end of this project? And project management will create the milestones to get to that vision. And number five, project management already has a defined goal. It's go live. It's delivering the solution. Yeah? Change management goals, unfortunately, because they deal with people and people are different, to say the least. Yeah? Their goals, change management goals, can change at any second. And that's true in my experience. Yes, it has. My goals from 1 minute to the next has changed. And it's because what happens with the people side. Okay, more detail. There's some perspectives here. There's quite a few of these. And these are different perspectives from a project management and a change management view. So number one, project manager sees the organization as a very structured hierarchy. So you've got the boss, you've got the people that report into the boss, then you've got all the people that sit under there. Change manager looks at the organization and says, yes, they're kind of a loosely connected group, but they haven't got much structure. They are stakeholders, yeah, and yes, they are in some kind of group, but not necessarily in the structure that a project manager looks at them like. Project manager is expert at dealing with plans, resources, and data, whereas a change manager is expert at dealing with people and behaviors. Project manager performs at their best when faced with certainty and predictability. A change manager with ambiguity and unpredictability. A project manager concentrates on a time horizon of, like I said before, up to go live, whereas a change manager goes on, can go, doesn't necessarily, but can go well beyond go live. Project managers are rewarded for I did warn you that I was going to use this more, deliver to time, cost and quality. And a change manager is rewarded for business readiness, making sure the business is ready for go live, and user adoption, making sure that after the solution's been delivered, that users actually adopt what's been delivered. Project manager deals with facts and figures. Change manager deals with perceptions and emotions. Project manager's deliverables are tangible. You can measure them. You've got milestones. You've got deliverables. Whereas a change managers, some are tangible, some are intangible. You can measure communication, you can measure business readiness, you can measure adoption, you can measure training, etc. But you can't measure culture change. You can't measure changing mindsets and behaviors. It's very difficult to actually put timelines on things like that. So they're intangible. Project manager takes an approach which drives a straight line between A and B, whereas a change manager navigates the path of least resistance. And finally, project manager primarily needs to be very structured in their approach, whereas a change manager needs to be very flexible because of the fact that he's dealing with people, and the fact that he's probably dealing with a sponsor that wants a change manager to do all sorts of different things. And finally, thank goodness I hear you say, not finally for the presentation, but for this bit, we both have different toolkits. So a change manager and a project manager can have different things in their toolkit. Change management can have things like a change methodology, business readiness assessments, communication plans, sponsor roadmaps, coaching plans, usage and adoption measurement, training plans, resistance management, and reinforcement mechanism. Whereas a project manager's toolkit contains things like statement of works, project charter, project initiation document, a business case, work breakdown structures, Gantt chart, budget estimations, resource allocation, and scheduling and tracking. Some of those crossover. For instance, a change manager needs to know what's in the business case for benefits realization. They need to know what's in the Gantt chart so they can actually input stuff, their deliverables into the master project plan, etc. But in essence, they are two distinctly different toolkits. So that really, hopefully, will give you a very good idea of why the two disciplines are different. And as I said, just to emphasize the point, I'm going to go talk a little bit about roles and responsibilities. Okay, so first of all, you've got project management and change management, two different pages of the same book. Project management defines project scope, managing resources, scheduling work tasks, managing issues and risks, and cutover and delivery. Change management does things like project communications, stakeholder management, business readiness, training management, and usage and adoption. Kind of things I've mentioned before, but you know, just gives you an idea at a high level. Both have different skill sets as well. Leaders, unfortunately, often undervalue the distinct roles of the two management subjects because project management is actually what's called a business decision enabler. whereas change management is a people behavior enabler. So change management skill sets are things like where they work on change, sustainability and integration. They communicate project progress and impact. They manage the people side risk. They focus on people side strategies. They follow change management life cycle, and they manage and motivate the people. Whereas the project management skill sets are sort of a little bit different, as again, I'm probably repeating myself here, but again, is to emphasize the point, drive solution delivery, focuses on, there we go again, time, cost, quality. Oh, and I've added scope on that one as well. Manages technical risk, manages the project from start to end, follows a project management life cycle, and delivers the project solution. Okay, I'm going to hopefully emphasize now the different roles and responsibilities from a personal perspective. I'm going to give you 3 examples of where I've been involved in projects, working alongside a project manager, and what my roles and responsibilities have been, and what the project manager's roles and responsibilities as well. So, example 1, I was the IT change and communications manager for a major head office move for GlaxoSmithKline in Singapore. 800 people. They were moving from the center of Singapore to a purpose-built building outside in the outskirts of Singapore. And I developed and delivered all the IT-related communications and change for that relocation. We moved 800 people in 3 weeks, and they were up and running and working by 10:30 every morning, which was great because the building had all the latest technology. It was Wi-Fi only and so forth. So they had to learn all of that stuff. What did I do? Develop the change strategy. Develop the change strategy. I did the learning, planning and delivery. Communication planning and delivery, stakeholder engagement, and I did a change impact analysis. What did the project manager do? They managed the project plan. Yep. And I had tasks in that project plan. They did project and milestone reporting to the steering board, infrastructure planning and implementation, risk and issue management, budget management, and technical change management, the one I mentioned before, the ITSM stuff. Example 2, I was the business change manager for an SAP implementation for a crane company called Manitowoc. And again, this was Singapore. And I managed all the communications, training, and business readiness activities for their Asia SAP implementation, which was across Australia, Singapore, Korea, and the Philippines. What did I do? I did business readiness monitoring, communications, training development, user acceptance test management, process and organization design, and stakeholder management. What did the project manager do? Guess what? They managed the plan again. They managed the project team. They did gap fit analysis. They did data management and cutover. They did training planning, although I did some training development work as well. So, and they did cutover and go live planning. And the final example, I was a business process change manager to develop a new target operating model for Everything Everywhere, which is a major UK mobile company, and it was for their new SAS business intelligence and analyticals technical infrastructure. So I did organization realignment, business process capture, stakeholder engagement, communication, education and training, and business readiness monitoring. Project manager, again, managed the project plan, did project governance and reporting, did infrastructure and environment planning, risk and issue management, business requirements, and actually managed code management as well. So I hope that those 3 examples have given you an idea of how different our roles can be, but how important it is for the project manager and the change manager to work in collaboration with each other. Just to give you an example of the way I worked in those projects and most of the other projects I've worked in, I like to work as what I call conduit between the project team and the impacted stakeholders. And what does that actually mean? Just to give you an example, project teams, when they communicate, if the project manager communicates, there is a tendency for project team, project manager to maybe use technical words, 3-letter acronyms, etc., which if it went to direct to the business, they probably wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't know what ERP was. They wouldn't know what SAP was. They wouldn't know what robotic RPA was, as an example. So in terms of communication, one of my roles, or one of the roles of my change agents, was to actually take that technical communication, change it round, make it more business orientated, and then send it out to the impacted stakeholders so they could understand what the communication was. And that's just an example. Obviously I did a lot of other things, but that just gives a sort of a perfect example of, you know, why you need to act as the conduit between the team and the business. Doesn't mean to say I don't work for the project team. It just means to say my focus is working for the project team, but managing the impacted stakeholders. Right, so that's roles and responsibilities. What about the case for integration? There's a lot of talk about integrating the two disciplines, but the word integration is an interesting one, and I hope I'm going to try and explain the reason I think it's interesting. Project management and change management, we each contribute a critical ingredient to a successful change event, though we vary in terms of focus and approach. We have obviously, as I've just described earlier on. If we can understand how each of our discipline works alongside the other, that's the first major step in achieving what I call a unified value proposition. And that's the strongest possible foundation for your change initiative. Remember, every project is a change project. Both change management and project management, we want to do the same things. We don't want to do something different, even though sometimes we're not really much, we're slightly misaligned. We still want to get people and organization people from a current state, how things are done, through a transition state to as a desired future state. So any new processes, products, systems, organizational structures, job roles, etc. We want to do the same thing. You know, there's no argument. You know, we want to have a project that is successful. So what about integration? This word integration. Integration begins with role clarity, and hopefully, having gone through those roles and responsibilities before, I've given you that a good idea of the difference in the roles and responsibilities. But unfortunately, there is a lack of understanding between the role of a project manager and change manager still in many organizations. Besides confusion around role clarity, there are also other barriers to project and change management integration. And I'm going to make you aware of a few of those now. Number one, even now, the discipline of change management still seems to be in its infancy stage. People still don't understand what it's all about. Yeah? When you compare it to project management, everyone knows about project management. Not everyone knows about change management. So change management professionals are in the early phases of converting non-believers. We have to justify our existence before people will actually employ us. Whereas a project manager says, oh yeah, done, come on board. Since the role of project manager has expanded, and it has expanded, if you read the 370 pages of PM Book 7, significantly, I believe most do not have the capacity or the capability to learn change management. It's a personal thing. It's a slightly contentious statement, I know, but I do believe that that is the case. Having said that, I have trained quite a few project managers and they loved it. Change management isn't easily measured. I mentioned intangible and tangible earlier on in the earlier perspective slide, yeah? And because of those intangible things, you know, like managing change resistance and managing organizational culture and changing mindsets and behaviors and all that kind of stuff. The executives who control budgets struggle. They don't understand. They struggle to justify the expense, and they don't get behind change management efforts. Hey, we've always done projects with project managers. Why do we need a change manager? Forget it. Too much. No, we don't have the budget, etc. And finally, project management has been ingrained deeply within the fabric of most organizations. You will find most every organization has some kind of project management capability. Yeah. However, not every organization has a change management capability, because I worked on the contract market for 15 years in the UK and another 10 years here. And, you know, I went into organizations that didn't have an internal change management capability. So we are still struggling to get a seat at the C-suite table, C-suite being the bosses, the CIOs, the CEOs, etc. So yes, there's a big problem still with change management. Okay, there was a while back, ProSci, they did a survey, and they asked a question: how well is change management and project management integrated in your organization? The results were interesting. 4% said extremely well, 12% said well, 34% said acceptably, 42% said poorly, and 8% said extremely poorly. This was done quite a few years ago, by the way. So you had 50% poorly or extremely poorly, and you had 16%, I believe, which said extremely well and well. Well, I don't like old statistics, so I decided to do a survey myself. Yeah, and I asked exactly the same question of 30 project managers and 30 change managers. I think it was 30 project managers and 30 change managers. Can't remember now. Again, how well is change management and project management integrated in your organization? And I did this survey in 2021 just to compare with the original survey. And what did I come up with? Extremely well went up from 4% to 9%. Well went up from 12% to 17%. Acceptably went up from 34% to 41%. Poorly went down from 42% to 24%, whereas extremely poorly kind of stayed about the same. That kind of tells me that instead of the 50%, there's a 33% there, and instead of the 16%, there's a 26% in there. That result tells me that we have moved on quite a bit in terms of integrating the two disciplines in our organizations, but there's still a way to go. I would still like to see the top percentage be a lot higher than the bottom percentage. So interesting comparison. Right, how do you actually integrate? You know, what do you need to do to integrate the two disciplines? Okay, well, I think I mentioned it starts with education. Start informing leaders, stakeholders, and project managers and project team members that the benefits of change management is critical to project success. The second one is you need to set expectations around how change work gets done. How does it actually get, what do you do as a change manager? Okay, and acknowledge that the discipline of change management is based on, it's based on fact. We do a lot of research. We have a lot of statistics to work with. I like statistics, yeah, and you know, a lot of the stuff we do is based on facts and insights, which is gathered through data. The third, and this goes back to my conduit to the business about using consumer-friendly language and basic language when describing the change process and work efforts, because the process for change management, if it's not described in an easy way, a way that people will understand, may be viewed as unnecessary to the untrained eye. Ensure project management and change management synergy. Make sure you're working together by presenting that unified front I mentioned earlier on to project leadership, to stakeholders and to team members. Yeah, show them that you're working together, that you each want to achieve the same successful outcome, and you're working together to achieve that. And finally, collaborate with the project manager and key stakeholders to embed some kind of change methodology and subsequent deliverables within a master project plan and status report. That is the best way change managers can get their message across, is to get their deliverables, their tasks, their activities into a master project plan. I've always tried to get my activities, the ones that are tangible, into a master project plan, because it gives change management visibility to the sponsors. So that's 5 steps. However, back to this word integration. What does it actually mean? There's a conundrum here, okay? The question for me is, can just one individual be both a project manager and a change manager, or should they be 2 different individuals? Don't think you can answer that now. A CM, this is my view, a CM and PM model of working in partnership is the way forward, okay? As I've kind of sort of stressed all the way through. Because I think a PM with a responsibility for change management, or the other way around, which is a CM with responsibility for project management, I think just really, really puts too much pressure on an individual. And they may not necessarily have the right experience and skill set to manage both elements. You know, I would say if I was asked now as a change manager to manage a project, I don't think I could do it, because I haven't got those project management skills anymore, you know. And then, you know, it's the same if a project manager is asked to do project management, change management. Do they have the right understanding, the right training, the right skills, etc.? Obviously, there are dependencies, such as things like the project size, the project impact. It can be a small project but have a big impact on the business, or it can be a big project and have a small impact on the business. And of course, budget, which I mentioned earlier on. And sponsors not willing to put their hands in their pockets to pay for a change manager. The CIO kind of agree with me on what I said there, because they said in an article, it was an article, I can't remember when it was, how project managers and change managers work together. What they actually said was, while project managers maintain complete focus on overall project objectives, which they do, with the goal of ensuring stakeholder value, change managers should not only attend project meetings, but also be an integral part of the project team. They further go on to say, collaborating, and that's a word I've used before, provides a holistic approach and ensures the impact of people can be sufficiently addressed, and also create a smooth transition in terms of processes and acceptance during and long after the project is complete. Overall, organizations should encourage change management and project management professionals to work closely together to ensure project efforts on change are sufficiently addressed to reduce the impact on its people. There you have it. CIO have said it. And this is a little bit out of date now, but I thought I'd leave it in. And it was from a December 2020 article. And it was all about change management trends to watch in 2021, which of course is gone now, by Mary Beth Gibson. And she came up with a thing called change-driven project management, which is quite an interesting title. She said the earlier change management can be rolled into project planning, the greater project's overall chances of success, especially in our current environment, where the pace and the volume of change requires special consideration, which it does in our VUCA world. An early start enables the change management team to build flexibility into their scheduling. And she said, We'll go further. Further says project managers would do well to address change management as early as possible and to work with a team on weaving communications and other measurable tasks, which is an important phrase, into the schedule, even as other aspects of the project are still progressing. So, yes, again, agreed. How do you choose, though, whether you need a project manager or a change manager? Well, this is a very simple model. I think I pinched this from a PMI chapter. I think it was in the USA. Can't remember which one it was now, but they came up with this very simple model. So you have at the bottom degree of behavior change required, low or high. And on the left-hand side, you have supportive culture and or leadership, strong or weak. So if you have a low degree of behavioral change, but you have a strong supportive culture, you could probably get away with a PM with some CM skills. If you have a high degree of behavioral change and a strong supportive culture, you can probably get away with a PM plus strong CM skills or a PM and a CM. However, if you have a low degree of behavioral change and a weak supportive culture, you will need a PM and with strong CM skills or a PM and a CM. However, if you have a high degree of behavioral change and a weak supportive culture, you will definitely need a CM and a PM. So it's just a guideline, but it's a very simple guideline, and I quite like it. That's why I use it. I also have a suggested model of how I've worked in the past with project managers before. And you have sponsor, steering group or program board, you have a project manager, and you have a change manager who work in collaboration with each other. The project manager has his project, or has their project team, sorry. Change manager has their change team. It's not always a big team. I've worked sometimes alone, or I've worked with a team of 40. On average, you probably have a change team that consists of about 3 people, one for overall change, one for communication, and maybe one for training. And then you have the business. But obviously, there's the conduit into the business. And what I've normally done is I've created a network of change agents who are operational people from the business to help me and the change team with implementing the change. And change agents are great people to have because they can help a great deal, because they're recognized by the business, because they will come from the business. Okay. We're nearing the end now, so I think we're on about 47 minutes, so we're okay for time. There have been some papers, as I said earlier on, PMI have been talking about change management since 2005. So organizational change management and projects, 2005. Organizational change management, the misconnection, 2005. Project manager or change manager, who should be managing organizational change, 2008. Work preferences of project program managers, change managers as a project team, from 2011. Integrated change management, 2013. And finally, some research into project management and organizational change in 2015. So there's been a lot of talk about change management by the PMI for a long, long time. I think it even goes back further than 2005. From the PM practice guide in the Pulse of the Profession, this is from a practice guide in 2013. I haven't been able to find a later one. It says organizational change projects are the 4th most common type of project undertaking, but only 20% of organizations adopt a formal organizational change management practice. I would imagine that's still about the same. Studies show that organizations achieve higher success rates by using standardized portfolio, program, and project management techniques in concert with rigorous change management approaches. In the PMI's Pulse of the Profession in 2015, through strategic initiatives, it says, enabling organizational change through strategic initiatives, it says, projects and programs, by their very nature, create change. That's what I said right at the beginning, if you remember. To successfully implement organizational strategy, Companies need project and program managers with the skills to drive and to navigate change while ensuring that those changes are strategically aligned to business goals. The success or failure of a change initiative is not just about initiating, planning, monitoring, executing, and evaluating the project that will drive the change. Right, PM Book Guide 7, PM Book Guide 7th edition. And change. I mentioned that the PM book had 370 pages. Of those 370 pages, only a part of section 4, pages 161 to 165, for those who've read it, relate to change management. That's a little bit surprising, if you ask me. That section talks about change management models, and it says many projects contain an aspect of changing systems, behaviors, activities, and sometimes culture. I think that should read all projects, to be honest. So managing this type of change requires thinking about how to transition from the current to future desired state. There are many models that describe the activities necessary for successful change, and they go on to describe the models. And I'm not going to go into great load of detail about these, and I'm just going to give you a flavor. There's managing change in organizations, an iterative model that's based on 5 common elements. There's ADKAR, which is the ProSci model who I've mentioned before, focuses on 5 sequential steps. There's Kotter's 8 steps. Kotter is one of the change management gurus. It's a top-down approach where the approach change starts at the top and is then promoted downwards. There's the Virginia Satire change model, which I hadn't even heard of until I read it in the PM Box 7. And it's a model that helps team members understand what they're feeling to enable them to go through change. And finally, there's the transition model, which is a model that helps to understand what occurs to individual psychology when a change takes place. So yes, they mention them, great. But so what? Yeah, okay. I've mentioned all these change management models. So what? It doesn't matter, because, you know, just blindly following a change management model does not necessarily guarantee you a successful change outcome unless you know how those models actually work and you know what the background is and what sits behind the model and what's in the lower level of detail of those models. So just referencing some models is pretty ridiculous, really. They also map those models, yeah, to each performance domain, and that's on table 4.41 in the PM Book guide. And what they've done is they've only mapped those models to 3 of the performance domains, so to stakeholders and to planning and project work. Wow. My view, I consider change management should be relevant in all domains. All domains. I mean, why isn't change management in uncertainty? Because change creates uncertainty. Yeah? Why isn't change in measurement? Because you have to measure usage and adoption and business readiness. So it's kind of a bit silly to actually just map them to 3 of the domains. Right. Sort of coming to the end now. Yeah, we're doing okay for time. Project success and failure. Again, this is another survey that was done by a company called Beyond Strategy, and this was done 8 years ago. And it just asked 2 simple questions: how important is project to change success, and how important is change management to project success? So the first one came up with critical, 25%, necessary, 68%. And the rest is a nice to have. The second one came up with critical, 48%, necessary, 43%, and the rest is a nice to have. So you have nearly double the number of people say that change management is critical to project success, whereas project management is only 25% important to change success. Interesting. Well, again, very similar to the last one I showed you. It was 8 years ago, and I thought, no, it's too old, I need some new data. So I did another self-survey, and I asked exactly the same questions, okay? And I did this in 2021, so it's about a year old. As I said, same questions. How important is project management to change success, and how important is change management project success? Critical, 34%. Very important. I had used a slightly different scale, but it's still, you can still compare them. Very important, 44%. Important, 20%. The rest, yeah, okay. Oh, critical, 64%. Very important, 24%. Important, 8%. And the rest, yeah, okay. Again, you've got nearly double the amount of people saying that change management is critical to project success. Yeah, which is interesting. So there isn't really that much of a change between the old survey and the new survey, which is very interesting for me. Not a lot has changed. Back to ProSci, talking about success measurement. They say success measurement focuses on the technical side of change elements primarily. I haven't mentioned this for a while, have I? Time, budget, and scope. Oh, they haven't got quality in there. Okay. And the achievement of outcomes, they say in some cases, intended results and outcomes take a secondary role behind time and budget targets. Whereas change management, success measurement focuses on the people side of change elements, including adoption, usage, proficiency. And in terms of achievement of outcomes, because results and outcomes depend on individuals adopting the change, this is a primary focus. And ProSci, from their webinars, this is data that they collected. They say without change management, employees feel surprised and overwhelmed by the change, which could result in failed project results, extended project schedules, additional project costs, and low adoption and usage. Whereas with change management, employees feel prepared and supported for the change. So you get 6 times more likely to achieve objectives. You get 5 times more likely to stay on schedule. You get 2 times more likely to stay on budget. And you get increase of people dependent ROI. In other words, you get more people using and adopting the solution. Thank you for your time. That's it from me. It's the end of my session, and we did that in 57 minutes, which was good. So what I will do now is stop sharing. Okay. And ask if there's any questions, or show. Oh, no, wait a minute. There's some questions in the chat.
There are questions. Yeah, there are 3 questions.
I'll go through these if you like, Sylvia. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay. The first question is, what are the tools best working as per your experience when employees are not change orientated? Okay, the 3 most important aspects of change management, and these, I have my own change management model, by the way, and these are what I call the foundations of change management. They are sponsorship. Sponsorship has been determined as being the best thing you can do to make sure a project is successful. So get a good sponsor, get them involved in a project, get them talking to people. The second one is stakeholders. So engaging with you, or identifying your stakeholders, engaging with them on a regular basis, talking about the project, etc. And the third one is communication. People like to be communicated with. They like to know what's going on out there. They like to know what's happening with the project. So 3 foundations. Yeah, my model also contains 8 building blocks, but the 3 foundations are sponsorship. So sponsorship engagement, make sure they know what they've got to do. Stakeholder management and communication. What drove you away from PM and CM? That's a good question. I've never been asked that before. I think I realized that all the projects I was doing involved change. Yeah. And in those days, in the very early days, it wasn't known as change management. But then all of a sudden the phrase change management, or the role or job title change management came up, and I looked at this and I read up and I researched a bit, and I said, well, that's what I actually do. Yeah, I'm a project manager, but I get involved in projects that are changing people's ways of working. So I'm really a change manager. And then I looked into it in a bit further, and I thought, well, yes, the skill sets are different. So I started learning the new skill sets, etc. And I'm self-taught. I don't have a certificate. I've never been on a training course, etc. So everything I've experienced, everything I do, everything I say is all self-taught. It's all based on experience and practical knowledge. So yeah, that's what kind of drove me away. And I think because of my the way my brain works, I think I was more aligned to the sort of uncertainties of change management rather than the sort of very structured project management approach. Thank you very much. CM seems like some kind of HR management, more in a specific. HR and change do not go together well. I've been involved with many HR departments during my time, and again, you know, when I talk about the difference between project management and change management, HR are too task orientated. They're too transactional. Yeah, they record people's leave, they record people's sickness, they record people's wages, they, you know, do all sorts of different things. Very transactional in the way they work. Whereas change management, it can be transactional, but it's not. The way of thinking of a change manager is you know, non-transactional. Having said that, here in Asia, where I work, there's a lot of HR departments that actually do things like organizational development, which is sort of similar to change management, and they get involved in change. So it's kind of up to organizations how they manage it. Yeah. But you know, my opinion is, yeah, HR are good. They're good for getting information. They're good for negotiating issues when there's redundancies involved and redundancies packages, and they're good for other things. But to actually drive change, my view is it should be kept as far away from an HR department as possible. Thank you for the presentation. Nice presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ron. Is that it? No more questions? I must have answered them all then.
Well, I warned you that you have prepared a lot of information for our attendees. So I think they are in the process of probably digesting it right now. I mean, yeah, a wealth of knowledge, sharing it. Yeah.
What I will say is, please, if you want to link with me on LinkedIn, Ron Leeman, just look at it up, send me a LinkedIn request. If you want to send me an email, just let me type my email address in the chat at thehighwayofchange.com. If you want to send me an email with a question, send it to my email address. Also, another one, I have a YouTube channel, okay, and I answer a lot of questions from these types of sessions on there. If you go onto YouTube and search for the Highway of Change, you'll find it. I've got about 40 answered questions on there already, and a lot in the pipeline. And I'm going to be sent the questions by Sylvia from this session, and I might well use a couple of them from this session as well. Okay, so have a look at my YouTube channel, Highway of Change. And yes, I'm quite happy to receive, as I said, LinkedIn requests and any questions, you know, sort of post-event questions. If you want to ask me questions, send me an email. It's all free of charge.
Yeah, Ron,
That's it. That's it.
yeah, you have been presenting across the globe. You are probably one of the pioneers in this area, change management. So what is the main concern that people have when you discuss change management with them? Or what is, let's say, the most asked question? What concerns the people?
Of change is what's in it. What's in it for me? WIIFM. Everybody wants to know this change is going to impact me. You're going to change the processes. You're going to change the technology. You're going to change this. You're going to change that. You may be changing roles and responsibilities. How will that affect me as an individual? Yeah. Obviously, it's going to affect groups of people, but it'll also affect individuals. But that is the main question, and you have to be able to answer that, you know, because there's negative and there's positive outcomes. Some people would loss is a big issue in terms of change management. Some people will lose things that they had before and they won't like it. Yeah, because of the way the brain works. They've got a lot of habit, a lot of security in the way they work. And if somebody comes in and says, hey, we're going to implement SAP and it's going to change all your processes and we're going to change job roles and responsibility and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and they go, oh my goodness, how is that going to impact me in what I do? I'm happy here. I like what I've been doing for the last however many years, be involved in an organization. So I want to know me, how it impacts me as an individual. So that's probably the main question.
Thank you. Well, it seems like this should be addressed on an individual level, which makes the situation even more kind of challenging, probably a bit more complex.
It does need to be on an individual level, but if you've got a big project that involves thousands of people, you can't hope to sort of do it on an individual level. You have to look at sort of groups and group norms and stuff like that. And, you know, it's very difficult. If smaller projects are fine, you could probably get away with talking to smaller groups and stuff. But, you know, the big project, I mean, I was involved in one project many years ago that had 4,000 stakeholders. How do you actually, you know, get that what's in it for me message across to 4,000 different people? You know, there are ways of doing it through obviously different communication channels and so forth, but you know, it's a difficult one. We have a hard life as change managers.
Yeah.
Just like project managers.
Yeah. Yeah, let me see if there are by chance more questions. No, there are no more questions. And I also don't have questions. Maybe Leeman has a question. He's always
they're just people thanking me for my presentation. Yeah. Can you send me those thank yous as well, Sylvia? Is that possible? Because I'd like to include that in my feedback when I produce a feedback post for. So where it says thanks a lot, very informative and motivating and great presentation. Okay. Yeah, if you could send me all that information. That would...
Ron, Sylvia says that I always have many questions, but I wanted to use the Fifth Amendment and don't talk about change, because my first speaker engagement with PMI was about self-transformation, you know. When I've proposed this to the speaker team, they said, but we don't want to talk about change and things like this. Was 6 years ago. And I said, well, sorry, but that's what the projects are about. We have to manage change. You cannot just let it happen on its own, you know? And the biggest lesson is that actually we always have to also take something for ourselves. Yes, we are changing the company, we are changing the world, but what are we doing to ourselves? That's also a very important question.
Absolutely. Anyway, I look forward to the feedback from your survey. Yeah, again, which would be good.
Yes, I posted the link in the chat box, so please give us your feedback. We would love to hear from you, and Ron is very interested in your opinion. please fill out the survey and contact him on LinkedIn. As you see, he has a vast experience and a wealth of knowledge that just
can't you tell by my grey hair and my grey beard and my wrinkles on my face? And thank you very much for having me, PMI Bulgaria and Sylvia and Leeman. It's been great. Obviously, this is not the last one. I think I've got a few more to do. But yeah, it's been great. It's been great, and I look forward to all the feedback. Is there any more questions anyone wants to ask? There's still 38 people online.
Yeah, I think they are.
They're just waiting to go, are they? They've probably heard enough of me by now.
Yes.
No matter.
Yeah. So what is the time now there? Is it quarter to 12?
What is the time here? It is 1:45 in the morning.
1:45. So I think we should leave you. We should wish you good night. We should wish you.
Okay.
Yes. We should wish you, a lot of change management.
I'll say thank you very much in time.
Success with your institute initiative. A lot of success with all your ventures. Stay healthy and safe.
Yeah, well, let's talk in the future about.
Yes, and we stay in touch.
Potential.
Thank you all for your attendance. Thank you, participants, for your attendance. Thank you very much for the questions, for your interest.
I hope I haven't bored you too much with my passion.
Ron, we'll see in the survey. It will be reflected there.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
I wish everyone a nice evening, and Ron, I wish you good night.
I'll say thank you very much in Thai. Kap und Radri Sawat, which is thank you very much. Good night. Okay.
Благодаря, Ron. Благодаря.
Thank you.
Thank
you, PMI Bulgaria.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.